My name is Harvey Milk, and I'm here to recruit you.
If homosexuals are allowed their civil rights, then so would prostitutes or thieves or anyone else.
40 years old, and I haven't done a thing.
I'm not going to be forced out of San Francisco by social deviants and incorrigibles.
We need one of our own in office. We could have a revolution here.
I don't do losing. There she is, our new campaign manager.
You all scared of girls?
You'll be the first openly gay man elected to major office.
It's like you're part of the machine now.
Society can't exist without the family.
We're not against that.
Can two men reproduce?
No, but God knows we keep trying.
If these people are going to live a life of such open homosexuality, they are going to be removed from their jobs.
We're going to beat this thing. We need everyone.
If we lose this, we'll have anti-gay laws in all 50 states.
You're not like most homosexuals, Ion.
Do you know a lot of homosexuals, Dan? Harvey Milk will be stabbed and have a night of horror. I'm calling the police.
They probably wrote it.
You have an issue.
It's more than an issue. This is our lives we're fighting for.
You get the first bullet the minute you stand at the microphone.
You don't have to go after.
All men are created equal. No matter how hard you try, you can never erase those words. That is what America is.
I want you to know I'm proud of you.
Without hope, life is not worth living. You gotta give them hope. You gotta give them hope.
You can sure tell that came out in 2008.
Yeah.
You gotta give them hope. Let me be clear. Okay? Change and Harvey Milk. Yeah, actually, several of the introductions to this movie, he's at Obama campaign events. Sean Penn, and like there's a bunch of like Obama Hope and Change signs behind him.
Hope and Change. Remember that?
Hope and Change. I'll slam the door right now. He said hope and change, and he slammed the door on all of us.
Yep.
They did.
What promised to codify Roe v. Wade when he had a supermajority was like, we're good.
What think of the fundraising? Yeah, no, it's this is movie night extravaganza, and I'm sure we'll have a long.
Certainly is.
I'm sure we'll have a long discussion about Roe v. Wade in the after party, but for now, I am joined by Platonic Reversal host Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends band leader. Just got back from tour, all around from Atlanta, Louisville,
Louisville, Nashville, Indianapolis. Yeah, every place was incredibly hot. Like not just like the shows were like good, they were, but it was literally incredibly hot. Like
Yeah,
Loading
you're
Out
touring
was
around the a lot of the South in like the hottest time period of the.
Yeah, I know. Wasn't my idea, but whatever. It was great. It was awesome, and it was all too brief, as tends to be the case. But yeah, it was interesting to be in those places. As you know, I didn't know it was coming, but the news broke about Roe being overturned while we were out. That's always the weirdest thing when you're out on tour, when like some major news item breaks, because you're kind of a little divorced from reality and in your own world. But obviously, like, you know, but you're like, oh, well, what's happening? What's happening? You know, are there protests happening? Are there? And now it's a lot easier to find. It used to be back in the day, it was just sort of like, well, no idea, no way to find out. Now it's, of course, everyone's online all the time, so it's easier. But yeah, you know, it's interesting that technically speaking, I guess it's still Pride Month, right? And like, it's like, oh yeah, here's a bunch of rights that are being taken away.
We have
Nothing
one more
has
day to
changed.
be gay.
It very much is still Pride Month, as I could tell walking around the city.
Yeah.
Like half of the people had protest signs, half the people were ready for Pride. I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of
Well, it's just amazing that, like, you know, you look at the advances, you know, they're made over the years, but you look at the things that they're dealing with in this film and in this time period, and it's like, oh yeah, not that much has changed. Yep, they're still taking away rights. You know, they're still, it's, you know, it's hard, but as much as the hopey changey stuff is so like very much 2008, it is kind of like, I think the message in that, rewatching it literally today because I had no time otherwise to see it. You know, it resonated even more, and I do agree with it, even though it's hard to divorce that from the Obama campaign and failed promises / you know, watching the pitch sale past. I do agree that you can't just sit there and outline a litany of grievances and expect people to flock to your side. It's just not going to work.
Yeah. And of course, also joined by Kristina.
Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. She says there's less people. I was going to make the intro as long as possible.
Coming to us live from the Castro, apparently, and looking by that background. I don't know.
Exactly.
Hey.
But yeah, I was in New York City.
I saw this at the Castro Theater when it premiered. I saw because they did the premiere at the Castro. I saw it at the Castro Theater, which is a trip because it's right next to like where Castro Camera was. I mean, like you're literally, and you walk out and you're like, oh, this is the street that all that stuff happened. It was a surreal experience. Sorry.
I remember seeing it in theaters with my dad. And feeling like, oh wow, we're in this like transcendent moment. Like, and I saw it right as it came out. Right, it was like November. It's like it hadn't like the Obama failures hadn't hit yet. It still felt like we were in
had that time to fail yet. Yeah, exactly. I remember there's a lot of people that were just like, cool, let's party.
Yeah. And so watching it now though, thinking about like, you know, stuff going on like Libs of TikTok, who's kind of our moments.
I got the Libs of TikTok block.
I did too actually on Friday. But thinking about her as like kind of this generation's Anita Bryant, right? Like now we have social media and it's a Twitter account that literally outs you know, transgender and gay and like any kind of
any minority at this point. Like I saw her post like a TikTok of someone who a woman of color and I guess her, you know, I think Lives of TikTok was like, how dare this black person try to tell us what to do? And I'm like,
yeah, well, I think as mental decline kind of also hits that account, right? Like as they get more famous, they're going to get more unhinged, and it's going to be insane to really now not watch it because they blocked me. But
yeah, she was attacking Keffels, right? And I was like, you have her blocked. She does not have you blocked.
Yeah,
you're talking a lot of shit right now, and then she blocked me, and I'm like, oh.
And she's not someone who is located in, you know, like in one of these red states. She's located right there in good old New York City, in the Orthodox Jewish community somewhere.
She doesn't have to worry about her rights being taken.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? Like because it feels like a lot of these attacks come in so-called blue states. The same as, I mean, you know, it starts out both cases. It starts out with Anita Bryant and with her with Florida politics, right? But it ends up extending out to not just extending out not just to those kinds of more depraved areas. Like it ends up, hitting right in blue states.
The 1970s was, because I also watched Mrs. America about Phyllis Schlafly, and it seemed like the 70s was a very, very different time where it was almost like who was going to have like the hold of American politics? Like, would it be the left or the right? And unfortunately, after 1978, it seemed the right wing ended up getting a lot of what they wanted. Reagan came into office, and just we're still dealing with that shit like 40 years later.
Well, I mean, well, hold on. There's 3 people in here. Maybe I can get a sentence in. But a lot of that to do with the reason people voted against Jimmy Carter were twofold. One was gas prices, right, and the other was like the hostage crisis, which was there's a whole cottage industry of like books and like podcasts and things about that, and how that was orchestrated, how that was basically subverted and turned into a win for Reagan. But the Equal Rights Amendment came with a gnat's eyelash away from being enough to be codified. Like it wasn't like I think you're right. Like the battle lines were drawn, certainly, but it wasn't like a sure thing.
Thanks.
But Phyllis. It is. Yeah, exactly. And by the way, Miss America, that's a great, I guess is a miniseries.
Yeah.
Right.
It was really,
we really liked that. I dug that a lot.
It really showed the internal conflicts within different branches of the feminist movement.
Exactly, like your Shirley Chisholm versus
your rad femmes and your liberal feminist.
Yeah, and I can't think of a name right now, but
Ready for Dan?
Yeah. Well, the point of fact is that like it showed all of the that it was a coalition. It was just that, literally it was a coalition. So you've got Gloria Steinem, of course, everyone remembers Gloria Steinem, but like Betty Friedan. Right, played by Tracy Ullman. I didn't realize it was Tracy Ullman. I was like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah,
awesome.
Like she was like, "We shouldn't be letting the trans and the lesbians and talk about like abortion." And I'm like, "What the hell?" I'm like, "Oh, so this is what a radical feminist is."
Yeah, you're like a proto turf. Well, anyway, whatever. I don't want to get in trouble, but it's wild to see that but it was a coalition, right? And then they had the normal things of like okay, they're kind of starting to internecine conflict about things. This one doesn't like that one, et cetera, as what actually happened. But to see it all kind of laid like that, and then also see like it portrayed not as like and I hate to say it, not like it's the Adam McKay style, like, hey dummies, remember this kind of thing, like with Vice, and I do like that stuff, don't get me wrong, but to actually have really great portrayal of a horrible human being like Cate Blanchett as Phyllis Schlafly. I mean, that is one of the worst people in like our lifetimes. It's just that people don't know her name because she was
in like 2020, right? I think.
Yeah. That was a good day. That was a good day.
And people don't know her name because after she did all the work, and that if she'd been a dude and done all that work, then she would have been like, a senator or would have been like in the cabinet or something along those lines.
Reagan kind of kicked her to the curb.
Trying. She did. She kept trying.
Yeah. But exactly. But the thing is, like, even after she did like, 40, 50 times more evil than like all the other evildoers, she still didn't get her reward for it. And like to have that portrayed is like, you have to be able, first of all, you have to be able to kind of appreciate the character study that like, no, this person like did a lot of like horrible things, like the horrible things that have lasting repercussions today, but then also to be like, oh, and then still didn't get like, the reward.
She coined the whole "own the libs" thing. I mean, she didn't say "own the libs." Obviously, that's like internet slang.
Yeah,
she coined
the philosophy.
The libbers. I'm like, why would you call liberals libbers? That sounds like libertarian.
Libs. Her opening joke would be her like, I was just listening to Reaganland again today to prep up for this episode, and her opening line every time was I want to thank my husband for letting me be here, and then she would say, I say that every time because it makes the libs so mad. And she would kind of laugh like that. But that's like Reagan ended up using that strategy in a softer kind of grandpa kind of, I guess, daughter and grandpa kind of way. But like Trump and all of these kind of more depraved, right.
And no one really cares. We do not care. You don't own us. You don't offend us. We do not care.
Well, but the thing is reacting at all.
Being called a lib, but
Yeah, exactly. That's the most offensive thing. Exactly. Jason said that to me as a joke. I was like, that's hate speech. But hold on. But I think before we move on, I'm not going to let's move on. No, Miss America, like it had to have come out at that time though, because you're right that it was sort of the grandmother of that kind of like mindset. It's like absolutely prevalent in today's politics, in the same way that, like, remember 2008, gay marriage, right? Gay marriage. Everyone was talking about gay marriage, which, by the way, always should have been marriage equality. And the frame language is still on the right-wing terms. Gay marriage is a right-wing term.
Frank Lutz.
And just yet again, I mean, like, liberals love to engage on right-wing frames. We've all established that. They don't know any other way to be. But like, think about of that time, milk is very much of that time, right? And also that's why all the hopey changey stuff came in too, of there being like, hey, there's hope, and then, oh yeah, is there?
So speaking of
sorry,
that,
Kristina, go ahead. I didn't mean to railroad you, but I saw you were going for something different. I wanted to get that out there.
Oh no, I was going to talk about like San Francisco politics, but we'll definitely get to that later.
We'll get there. We will. Oh, we're gonna.
So I want to I guess start with some of this. This was cut into the actual milk, right? Like, because they used a lot of real footage.
Yeah, they did the thing where they
good.
blended, right? Yeah. And Anita Bryant, everyone gets to be Anita Bryant now, and you don't have to be like shilling orange juice, like you can just jump on the internet.
Apparently, she was Lyndon Johnson's favorite singer and actually sang at his funeral a couple years before all of this.
Yeah, she became a hit with Paper Roses, which, by the way, Marie Osmond's version is way better.
And she also sang at both the DNC and the RNC the same year.
Right.
Wow. That's. I mean, with considering how much the Democrats and Republicans are not really that different these days, it's like, wow, perfect.
I was just gonna say, everyone make your own jokes.
Well, this was, I think this was a little bit before her whole turn towards this. This is some of the footage that I watched last night, an hour and a half. I really like punished myself by doing this. I watched an hour and a half documentary on her whole back and forth with in Miami-Dade, which is what comes up early.
Oh yeah, which is looms very large in the story of milk, but also looms large in the movement for sure.
Yeah,
that's like one of the great big setbacks.
So this is some of the footage from that.
We talk about the danger of the homosexual becoming a role model to our children. And I'm not talking necessarily of child molestation in the physical. I'm talking about the psychological, which is even more detrimental and would have far-reaching effects on our children and on our nation.
Can I get a fact check on that? Having gay role models is more damaging than molestation. I don't think that I need a fact check on that. I don't think that's true.
What are gay role models?
It's not a political issue, it's a moral one. I love the homosexuals. I love them enough to tell them the truth. Because God is very plain concerning these kinds of sins. He says in 1 Corinthians 6, 9 through 11, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of God.
I feel very strongly that what we're faced with today is something that is being camouflaged under Christian faith, Christian love, that is one of the most vicious hate campaigns this country has ever seen.
And the cultural values of man have been vindicated. I thank God for the strength He has given me and my family. And I especially thank my fellow citizens who joined me in what at first was a walk through the wilderness. The people of Dade County, the normal majority, have said, enough, enough, enough. For almost 5 months, our community has been subjected to the discussion of a highly emotional issue. This distasteful atmosphere was created by the insensitive and unnecessary action of a bare majority of the Metro Dade County Commission, 2 women and 3 men, who caved in to the demands of a highly vocal radical group. Hopefully, the Metro 5 have learned their lesson.
We have a national movement. We've created an entire awareness throughout not just this country, but all over the world,
as to the discrimination that's going on, and if Anita thinks that the gay community is going back into its closet from this, she's sorely mistaken.
Well, I've been involved in a moral issue, and I have tried to steer clear of political issues, and I feel that that certainly is in the political arena, and because we have a job to do nationally with Save Our Children, that the people who voted for repeal will make that decision, and I'm sure there are a lot of them that will take care of recall.
But you don't personally plan to get involved in that?
No, as I said before, I've got a lot of work to do in other areas, but I don't think I have to get involved. I think that's going to be taken care of.
Moral majority. Heard that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how much of that language is almost wholesale carried over today, right? I mean, it's
2023 people. What the fuck?
The only thing that changes the messenger, really.
Yeah,
free moral majority, right? Like this is kind of what led up to that coalition, and I mean, like listening through Reaganland today, some of it, I mean, it's like 45 hours of an audiobook, so like I didn't listen to the whole thing, but listening like back to some of it, and understanding how the right, Rick Perlstein writes in that like each discontent builds on the other ones. So like everything from abortion to the feminist movement and opposing that, and even like domestic violence laws, like fighting against domestic violence laws being passed, and and then on top of that, the gay and lesbian movement, and on top of that, the Panama Canal, which is one that now like that's something that slipped into the ether, but was a huge issue for the conservatives going into the 1980 election, right? Like not giving up the Panama Canal. Weird one, but yeah, and the NRA, like so. All
in retrospect, that seems really weird, but it absolutely makes sense in the context of the time.
There's a lot of things that conservatives were outraged about, and it still baffles my mind that we're still having to put up with this bullshit.
Yeah, we're still arguing about all of them. Yeah, I mean that's real, right? And like again, it goes back to what I was talking about. Like gay marriage was a right-wing frame. Absolutely. And it was meant to be a right-wing frame because it was made to reframe the debate to be talking about marriage, a religious institution, rather than legal rights as a couple, as a citizen. And instead of, I can tell you exactly how it should have been framed. It should have been framed as, do you believe in, that folks should have equal rights to be with who they want to be with? And if you frame it in that term, then who's going to say no? Assholes, pretty much, right? But instead, we had to have it be controversial for years. And credit where credit's due. I didn't vote for him. I helped out his challenger from the left when he first ran for mayor, but Gavin Newsom was on the right side of that issue, and didn't enforce that ban. And credit where credit's due. Like I said, like he was one of the first ones to actually do that, and despite it being completely framed exactly wrong, and every piece of that of how that fight went was wrong, but society evolved to the point that like we still won that one.
I mean, you would think that, things seem to be on the up and up. It seemed like, a lot of like, and I hate mentioning Glee, but like, you had more TV shows that represented, LGBTQ plus characters. You had, Kurt, you had Brittany and Santana, even though Glee was very, very, very biphobic. Calling you out, Ryan Murphy, on that one, by the way. And then Trump came into office.
Yeah, because that's the big overcorrection.
Slowly
right?
but surely, things were like, oh, they're drag queens are bad, transgender people are bad, oh my god, gay people bad. Look at the sister wives. That's what's gonna happen. And I'm like, the
one thing that Trump did get right that came out today is that he wanted to hang Mike Pence. 100%.
Yeah. Wow. No wonder you got banned from Twitter.
for different reasons. Trump wanted to obviously.
I know. Hey man, even a stop clock's right twice a day. We're not on air, are we? I'll never say that on air. No, but I mean, it's true, and that's a big overcorrection because it's like the last gasp of like the Dan White types, right? Not Dan White himself because he committed suicide.
We kind of still have them.
But like, yeah, but like not as a generational thing. right? There is a new generation of people that don't want others to have rights. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like how it was where, look, the idea of Harvey Milk like telling people like, you need to come out, because when people know that there's a gay person personally that like is in their family, they're more inclined to think of them as humans. Ostensibly, I forget the exact.
Yeah, and they're more inclined to vote for, to vote against the law that like makes it so that they can't.
That infringes upon them.
Yeah.
That infringes on their rights, and that's 100% true. And think about that in terms of like for trans people now, right? Because that's where all the culture war stuff is just like, let's beat up on the trans folks. And if like people are way more inclined to like think of a trans person as a human if they know them.
Carlson is a Dan White socialist.
God damn it.
The Glenn Greenwald comment where he called Tucker Carlson.
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. So, but the thing is, like, is the language and the framing is exactly the same. It's just the targets change, and it'll be something else, like in 10 years or something along those lines, right? Like, it's just they use it because it works.
Yeah.
And they use it because the media is now used to hearing it and will just freely engage in it for them.
And now we're also adding, like, first it was just, transgender community were groomers. And now it's like, oh, with Don't Say Gay, like, oh, even gay people are groomers, even bisexual people. And I'm like, I just want to be with a guy or girl. Just leave me alone.
That's a clip right there. Go ahead.
They stand it out, right? And the irony of it is like Matt Gaetz, pushing that as hard as he possibly can, literally a fucking groomer. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, his girlfriends are barely legal. Like, so the idea of someone as a groomer, like, because that's not a legal concept, right? Like, grooming is not something that you go to court. You can't like get arrested for grooming.
Elaine Maxwell, groomer.
But pedophile, you know what I mean? Like, so like that's the crime, not the psychological impact of the grooming. And so the nebulous nature of that term as kind of a slang term and not a legal term means that, the right is trying to grab it as fast as they possibly can because they do that shit more than anybody.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the fact that they do it is, again, you can't attack a frame with facts. They're talking about the creeps. They're talking about, the people, the not normal people, right? So since Matt Gaetz is one of the good ones, he's a normal person, right? In their minds is. So that would never, that must just be lies, like that. And that's the frame-based world that it used to be. Even 10 years ago, we would call people that said something like that psychopaths, but now it's just like, oh no, you get to choose your own reality.
Yeah, no, like, we're living in a fact-free, the fact-free era.
Right. But again, what people like, there's all of the Elizabeth Warren people who only would talk in like Harry Potter analogies until a certain person went on tirades. All of those folks, like, they still don't understand framed language. Like, they still don't get it somehow. And they don't get that no matter how many facts you throw at someone, it's never going to change their mind. Because they know that it's like good people, bad people, trusted source, untrusted source. And engaging with the frame in any way, shape, or form, even to mock it, reinforces.
And not even Democrats have a plan. I mean, what Hillary Clinton said, that Democrats need to focus on winning and not on activist issues like abortion rights and LGBTQ plus rights. I'm like, you're pissed about Roe v. Wade?
Yeah. I mean, losing is her job, but sure, let's listen to her about how to win elections.
Oh no, but what Chris Azilla said, Hillary Clinton 2024, it's happening. I'm like,
oh my God, just
no. It doesn't. I mean, if
self-immolate,
if the primary was Biden versus Hillary, I would not give a shit. Like,
I wouldn't even vote.
Yeah.
Biden, Hillary, suicide.
Biden, Hillary, DeSantis, Trump. And
oh my God,
no matter which person it is, like, we're taking a cyanide pill as a nation. Yeah, so continuing our little trip down, I guess, memory lane or whatever. This is
and it's hard not to so we're talking about the movie, but it's hard not to bring these issues into today's politics, right? It would be absurd.
Like, no, let's talk about Sean Penn the whole time. Like, no, let's talk about the politics.
CIA asset
James Franco is in this film, okay?
CIA asset Sean Penn runs for gay city council. That's what I describe this movie as. But this is Briggs, who was running for he was trying to run for governor, I believe, of California at the time. So he was introduced.
Oh, the guy, the prop 60.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So this is a big part of the movie. This is the next thing.
Yeah, the actor that plays him is like way more handsome. That dude is pretty fugly looking.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to look. You know me looking up cast members.
In California, lawmaker John Briggs took a further step.
Every homosexual, every lesbian.
Briggs mounted a campaign for Proposition 6,
State
a
senator, by the way,
statewide
not Senator
measure
John
to deny homosexuals their jobs in public school.
Now, what Proposition 6 is really all about is the right of parents to determine who will be teaching their children. We don't allow people who believe in practicing bestiality to teach our children. We don't let prostitutes teach our children. And the reason we don't is because it's illegal to be a prostitute. But it's not illegal to be a homosexual in California.
Proposition 6 brought the issue of homosexuality into the homes of millions of Californians, and it thrust Harvey Milk into a statewide spotlight.
There are already laws on the books to protect our children. Everybody from superintendent of schools, Wilson Riles, to Jerry Brown, to newspaper editors across the state, agree that indeed we have the laws to protect our children. I was born of heterosexual parents. I was taught by heterosexual teachers in a fiercely heterosexual society with television ads and newspaper ads, fiercely heterosexual, a society that puts down homosexuality. And why am I homosexual if I'm affected by role models? I should have been a heterosexual. And no offense meant, but if teachers are going to affect you as role models, there'd be a lot of nuns running around the streets today.
Harvey knew that he had to have, or that the gay community had to have, some kind of a repository for money so that groups that were fighting the Briggs Initiative would have could get funds in order to do the things that they had to do. I ended up being his co-chair of the Unite Fund to fight the Briggs Initiative. And that began our association, which over those months, when Proposition 6 came into being, became a real close association. And I got to know him on a level that I had never anticipated.
Well, nobody took Harvey Milk very seriously when he first ran for the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in 1973. But last year, Milk won election to the Board of Supervisors, where he's the first openly gay city official in the United States. And representing the Bay Area Committee against the Briggs Initiative is Sally Gearhart. Gearhart is a lesbian, a former high school teacher, and now a speech professor at San Francisco State University.
I remember that just before that debate, we had had a lot of talk, Harvey and I, about how we would dress. And we had agreed that the image that we wanted to project was sort of Mama and Papa USA, as neat and conservative as we possibly could. So a half hour before we start to leave for the television station, Harvey calls me and says, "I've lost my earrings, dear. Whatever shall I do?" Right? And I freak out, thinking, oh, my soul.
You yourself say that the heterosexual is the child molester. And if in your statements here, in all these newspapers and tonight, that child molestation is not an issue, if it is not an issue, why do you put out literature that hammers at home? Why do you play on that myth and fear? Same thing with VD, Harvey. We put out publications about VD so you can avoid it. This is campaign literature. We're trying to keep people from falling into that trap. We're trying to prevent it by pointing it out. And by the way, I don't make the statement that 95% of all the heterosexuals commit. What percent is it? No, I don't know. You tell me. The state says 90 to 95%. Well, I've never seen that in writing. Yeah, I don't make those statements. You do, but we're not. You even says here we are not talking about child molestation. The fact is, at least 95% of the people are heterosexual. If we took heterosexuals out and homosexuals out, you know what? We'd have no teacher. We'd have no teacher. No child molestation. So you're saying that the percentage of population is equal to the percentage of child molestation? No, there's no difference. No, I'm not saying that at all. No, that's what you just said. No, I'm saying that we cannot prevent child molestation. So let's cut our odds down and take out the homosexual group and keep in the heterosexual group. Why take out the homosexual group if it is more than, overwhelmingly it is true that it's the heterosexual men, I might add, who are the child molesters. I believe that's a myth. I've never seen... senators, the FBI, the National Council on Family Relations, the Santa Clara County Child Sexual Abuse Treatment Center, and on and on and on.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. And honestly, like they kind of nailed those set dressings, like in the film, like and the debate at the Walnut Creek School. It looks perfect. Like it's exactly right.
Oh, and
even though it's like smaller, obviously it's not as in depth as the actual debate, right? It's not a real debate. It's like a scene in a movie. But
yeah. Dennis O'Hare played him in the movie.
Yeah,
He's
way
known
more
for
handsome
doing
than the real dude.
American Horror Story, and also he's done theater.
He's done like he was in
Sweet Charity.
He's in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, he's a good like character actor.
He was in like 21 Grams. He was in was he in Garden State? He's been in a bunch of stuff. He's like that guy, kind of like, oh yeah, that dude.
Kind of like a Stanley Tucci type.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's so nice to see, because I think people when the movie came out, there were folks that were like less politically minded. Were like, they really go debate him at like a Walnut Creek High School. It's like, no, that actually happened. And for folks that are not Bay Area specific, Walnut Creek is like out in the burbs. Like there's a BART. The BART will still go out there, but it's a long ride. It's the suburbs. Like once you get on the other side of the Caldecott Tunnel, it's like that's conservative landia to a certain degree. I mean, not like it's still California conservative, which is to say, probably better than like Kansas or something along those lines. But like, it's not, you're not really in the Bay Area so much anymore. So he basically, when they talk about him doing it on his home turf, that's exactly what he was doing.
Dennis O'Hare is the actor that plays him.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he was in True Blood, which at one point was a good show. Like early on.
Yeah, Dallas Buyers Club. He was in.
Yeah, he's all over stuff.
Yeah,
but that's such an odious character. But that guy is a precursor to so many of these culture warrior people from like the 80s and early 90s. Like beginning like Falwell and all their ilk and the televangelists and
I watched
that cottage industry.
I watched The Eyes of Tammy Faye, and of course, Tammy Faye, she loved everybody. She was able to like talk about like, here's why your sex in your marriage just sucks. Here is a penis pump. I remember they had like a meeting with Jerry Falwell like in the film, and they're like, we got we got to do something about these homosexuals, in their agenda. And she's like, what agenda? Maybe they just want to, live their lives, like nothing wrong with that. And Jerry's like, you're going to have to do something about your wife.
Well, Pat Robertson is another one.
Oh yeah.
Guys. And he was a Carter.
He's the happy warrior. He's like not just a culture warrior.
Pearl Baptist Church.
Pat Robertson
that even Fox News was like, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole discussion of itself. But Pat Robertson, look, people have a tendency to only like remember him as sort of like after his star sort of faded to a certain degree. But that guy was like, sword and shield out culture warrior.
Well, but he started off as a Jimmy Carter for president guy.
He did.
Because
yes,
Carter
he did.
was Baptist and got disillusioned when Carter started blowing him off because he's like, I don't need to, kiss up to those damn Baptists. But I think it's interesting that our last Democratic evangelical president, right, is Carter. And by the end of his administration, he had burned through every single pretty much voting base besides upper class kind of liberals that kind of look back on him at least and think like, wow, Jimmy Carter, that's our guy. Meanwhile, the most depraved, like whether it's Reagan or Trump or whatever, like they've, since then fully capitalized on the evangelical base while not themselves being evangelical. Well, I mean, Bush kind of born again.
Well, the thing with Jimmy Carter is he was a deeply moral guy, but actually moral in the way of like Jesus taught instead of all of these like
he was pro-choice.
I think what Jesus meant to say was,
he literally helped eradicate the guinea worm.
Right. Oh wow, that's deep. Okay, all right.
Yeah, he even explained it. I was like,
well, and he also look at his post-presidential career. He's Habitat for Humanity. He's literally built the houses for
he invented the
unhoused,
presidency. Man. He literally he's like, I could do a lot more when I'm not president.
Well, I think the problem
he still builds houses. He's like, what, 96? Like,
yeah,
the problem with Carter's faith and Carter's like morality is that his idea of morality is individualistic, which kind of fully, number one, I mean, people didn't want to be told not to buy as much gas and to conserve energy and stuff. You know what I mean? Like people did not
people still don't want to hear that, but yeah, they
my
definitely
mom's
didn't want
like,
to hear
I
that.
remember the odd and even days. I'm like, yeah, you're that old, huh?
But it also kind of played right into this really stupid economic frame where it's like government is like a family budget. You know what I mean? Like, which is the thing that kind of Reagan and everyone has fully like hammered over everybody's head. Like, government is family budget. Like, we need to just not spend as much money and like kind of do without.
People not understanding what the deficit is because this family budget analogy that just won't die ever.
Yeah.
Like, and that, how a government operates and how like a family of four operates are not in fact the same thing. Oh, whoa, this is surreal. All right, but thank goodness it's a typical Andrew World quote. It's completely contextless and baffling.
All right, for the audio listeners, I'm in the basement with the cats, borrowing my neighbor's internet, and I haven't had dinner.
Grumpy Andy's grumpy.
Andy, if you want to jump on, I put the link in the chat on your neighbor's internet.
He comes out of the comments, he gets roasted. He can't catch a break, that guy.
But yeah, I mean, I just think that I think it's this entire kind of cultural moment is kind of fascinating, and I didn't really connect these two things together because I know the story of Jerry Brown and his aversion to the death penalty and how as crime rose in California, drastically. They wanted to bring back the death penalty, and Jerry Brown. That's like he was perfectly willing to be tough on crime. He was perfectly willing to kind of do completely depraved things like the 3 strikes policy, stuff like that. Like before Democrats even jumped on it, but like he wasn't willing to.
That was the thing, right? And they called him Governor Moonbeam because of that.
And people say the Democrats are not tough on crime.
He also had a laser show that he did in his. He had a laser show that he did during his.
He's also dating what's her nuts for a while too. The name escapes me. Well, I mean, whatever. He at the time. So we're talking about Jerry Brown.
I had a thought that I was finished. So Briggs was the guy. Briggs, the other part of this campaign, right? One of the parts was this whole Prop 6 thing. The other part was that he was going to be the person who brought back the gas chamber and started executing far more people. And so they had the vote that went into it where, Jerry Brown around this time vetoed the death penalty, like bringing the death penalty back because they hadn't killed anybody in a while with it, and or by firing squad. He was going to do a firing squad bill where he was like, he was going to do a firing squad bill where like they started executing people via firing squad again. And
they're doing that in South Carolina.
That was the other plank of his. So it was going to be, we're going to criminalize, homosexuality, and we're going to like bring back the gas chamber and firing squad. And he lost. He did not win. He did not win even the nomination for the Republican governorship.
Wow, he would probably win today.
I mean,
not Liza Minnelli, by the way. Jerry Brown and Liza Minnelli used to date in Liza Minnelli's days.
Oh,
that's a lot of people don't know that because why would you? But yeah, like he was like the cool guy governor, like when I was like an infant, like in his first run, and then but like it's interesting that things were a little different because before Reagan ran for president, like he was, he was considered like a California Republican, right? He had different views on things, and like a lot like other Republican politicians, he moved to the like less devolved policies to for stuff he didn't care about to get elected, and then just became known for doing those things. And not to say Reagan was great, Reagan was always terrible, and he was a snitch, he was an asshole. What, Kristina?
Didn't how Reagan came up with his policies that Nancy had like an astrologist?
Yeah, that was one thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They interviewed her in that Showtime documentary, the Reagans. They interviewed like the daughter of their astrologist.
but you got to think about like this. So the time that this is happening, right? Look at 45 minutes in, I'm gonna mention Dianne Feinstein. There he is.
Hey,
Dianne Feinstein, who will never ever retire, and apparently intends to, her
never
skeleton
die.
will be elected as to the next term. Yeah, but like the only reason people even that's awesome. Look, that cat is pulling a Blair Witch right now. The thing with Feinstein is that nobody really knew or cared who Feinstein was outside San Francisco until she was the one that reported that George Moscone and Harvey Milk had been killed. And like that catapulted her career. She became mayor, later became senator. By the way, you know who ran also when Jerry Brown ran for Senate because he did that. You know who else ran? Gore Vidal.
That's we haven't heard from Gore Vidal in a while.
Yeah, I think I remember that from the documentary.
Yep.
There's a good documentary about Gore Vidal and
I forget what that's called.
From magazine.
Oh yeah. When he did all the debates with.
Yeah.
Kyle Andrew Dundee.
Yeah, my head ain't looking so hot.
Well, William Buckley, right? William Buckley.
Yes, William F. Buckley.
Yeah. Crocodile Andrew.
President of the Board of Supervisors, it's my duty to make this announcement. Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
Jesus Christ!
The suspect is Supervisor Dan White.
Twinkie defense, right?
Yeah, and I have
Absolutely.
a thing on that for towards the end of the episode. I have clips interspersed.
But like San Francisco politics, let's go.
Well, I was about to say she became mayor. She was the head of the board of supervisors. So then, with Moscone gone, she was elected as acting mayor, and that basically catapulted her into the spotlight enough that, again, later on, she became senator for life.
Well, don't forget too the 1984 president.
Multiple lives.
And again, also too, what made my heart sink recently was that article about the doctor who was like, "Yeah, I'm in charge of all your politicians is like Alzheimer's and dementia medication, and up in DC." And I was like, Dianne Feinstein and Chuck Grassley are definitely getting prescribed something.
Well, and then her office came out. Speaking of framing, they didn't challenge the framing that she's going through mental decline. They said Dianne Feinstein going through mental decline is a better senator than whoever we could pull out.
Right? Yeah. Amazing. That was an amazing comment. And also not true at all, but like an amazing comment. Andy, what were we gonna say?
Oh no! In 1984, if you remember, she was also in consideration for the vice presidential slot that went to
strong contender.
And
we could have had her as
that nomination, she flew the Confederate flag outside the mayor's office.
Oh yeah.
We did it, Joe.
Yeah, she did. So she did run in the same race as Jello Biafra, and I always use this as an opportunity to bring this out. I have not the original campaign buttons because I would have been like a baby at the time, but since Jello is, I don't know if I can call him a friend, but we're friendly. I have some of his campaign buttons, like this here. Public official is only as good as his record. Let's see if I can get that to show up on the camera. Probably not.
Might be too. There we go.
Yeah.
Public officials only as good as record. Vote Jello Biafra, San Francisco mayor, 1979. That's one of them. Let's see. It's all tied up with
now your camera's run out of focus.
I know it's buy the ticket, take the ride, my dudes. And then the man for the office, Jello. I got a few of them. He's Biafra for mayor. I got the whole set. They reissued them a few years ago, and I got some of those along with a bunch of stickers that said Nazi Trump's fuck off. So, and we distributed those around the country on tour. I really fucked this up somehow. Don't show buttons on camera, people.
Lean in closer. Oh,
you have an app like my camera has an app that you can actually go in and autofocus it. I don't know.
Yeah, mine's pretty good too.
This one's still new. Let me kill the light. Anyway, Look at the kitty. Look at the kitty, everybody.
Is it a Logitech camera?
Hey, don't pay attention to Conan.
I don't want to troubleshoot my camera. Don't fucking worry about it. I'll take care of it. We're here.
Oh,
Andy,
yeah,
what's up with
do
you?
it after the cat leaves me.
Cat ran away.
It's the cat cams. Also the hat
Here we
cam.
go. Oh, mine's
That
like a
is
$40 Nenshiba webcam, so I got it from a subscriber.
There you go.
But my other cat is still hiding behind the washing machine.
Oh,
She's going to be completely freaked out whenever we turn that thing on.
Yeah, let's do this.
She built herself a nest back there.
Well, she's liking the spot, huh?
Yeah. Like I said, wait till we run the machine.
But yeah. So we're talking about Jerry Brown. We're talking about the Briggs Initiative. It's I think that this movie does a good job, kind of on like a basis without having to explain that much, right? Like intercutting documentary footage with the actual story and actually kind of creating this thing. I wish that they had included Dianne Feinstein as a character besides in the beginning, because there's an incredibly complicated mess of a story where immediately after winning the election, Harvey Milk and Alicia Silver, I think is the name of the other politician that he won with, but they both wanted somebody new to run the San Francisco supervisor board, right? Like they wanted a new chair. They wanted someone who wasn't like an establishment figure. So Harvey Milk and Alicia, I think something like they both voted against Feinstein to be the city councilor, the head of the whatever city council. And so they voted against her, and then everybody else voted for her. And they said, well, let's try to get another vote, and let's try to have a second vote where everyone votes for her unanimously, and they both refused. They were like, no, we're not going to vote for her. So their immediate thing was to vote against Feinstein. Meanwhile, Dan White was actually kind of mentored by Feinstein. Like they actually had a lot in common.
Cringe.
And, so it's kind of like she announced that her mentee had pretty much killed the mayor and Harvey Milk.
Never be under Feinstein's wing. Only bad things happen. Also, too, with it being like big in San Francisco politics, like Jim Jones of People's Temple, he moved from like Ukiah to San Francisco because he wanted political power there. He was friends with Harvey Milk, and I think even after what happened, was Harvey.
It's amazing that we're going to talk about that and not some of the other bigger things. But yeah, that is a thing. For sure.
I think he defended Jim Jones.
Jonestown the massacre broke 8 days before Harvey Milk was killed.
Yeah.
So the news broke kind of back to back.
And I think he even defended Jim Jones. I was like, oh, Harvey, what are you doing, dude?
Connie, you could try jumping off.
I got it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. Please don't address it. Please. Fuck's sake.
Yeah, I can pull out some more cats.
I can pull up a clip.
There we go. Pull up a clip.
I'm never showing a fucking button on this show ever again in my life.
What you need is like a button cam. You need a special
a camera just for buttons.
We got to the button cam.
So this is the Dan White resigns. This is leading up to the double murder.
Josh Brolin was well casted, by the way, because they do look a little bit.
They look like almost identical. It's crazy.
Yeah. Sip it, Thanos.
4 days after the Briggs Initiative lost, Dan White engineered his own defeat. Surprising everyone, he resigned from the Board of Supervisors. In the last year, Dan White had left a secure job as a fireman, been elected a city supervisor for little pay, launched a risky new business, and become a father for the first time. Dan White had entered City Hall an idealist. Unlike his flourishing counterpart Harvey Milk, he was often frustrated by the job. White had never learned to operate in City Hall's atmosphere of back-scratching and compromise. White's resignation left Mayor Moscone with the task of finding a replacement.
Mr. Mayor, what's happened since Dan White has resigned? I understand you're getting a lot of phone calls and such.
The phone calls and cards and letters have been coming. I will tell you, as Dean Martin used to say, I was lobbied from just about the evening that Dan White resigned all the way through the weekend, and the phones have been ringing off the hook today.
This is Supervisorial District 8, Dan White's former district. As you know, most people were very surprised when Dan quit last Friday. No one seemed to know. He didn't tell any of his fellow supervisors, nor did he tell any of his political supporters.
Obviously, you know, if the time I spent to become elected, the time I spent down at the board, the many hours I spent, I don't want to see wasted. But for now, I can only deal with my family's responsibilities.
Many don't agree with Dan White. They say he gave up all of his political chits when he resigned so quickly without making any arrangements for someone whom he liked and supported to take over this district. In Supervisor District 8, I'm David Fowler, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
Well, now it starts all over again, because this morning, former Supervisor Dan White says he wants to be called Supervisor one more time.
I didn't run for election to resign 10 months later. I worked awfully hard. My wife and my supporters worked awfully hard so that I would be elected. And it was a major decision, as you can all understand, on Friday that I had to come to arrive at. But since that time, people unknown to me, plus my family and friends, have come to me and stated that they want me to stay in office, that they supported me to stay in office.
Mayor Moscone learned from the city attorney that Dan White could not take back his resignation. It was up to the mayor to decide who would get the District 8 seat. Harvey Milk lobbied hard against reappointing Dan White.
Harvey's story was that the mayor was thinking of reappointing Dan, and that Harvey went in and said, how can you possibly do that? Dan is the 6th vote on the board we need. And certainly Harvey was courageous in that stance because no one else was doing it. And there were other supervisors on the board who felt just as strongly, but they weren't going to get involved in that. I mean, what if Dan got reappointed? You know, think of the animosity.
Yeah, I mean, that's real. And also, since we have invoked Joe Biafra, I had it fixed. Now it's fucked up again. I Fought the Law by the Dead Kennedys. He changed the lyrics to be about Dan White getting away with killing Moscone and Harvey Milk with the Twinkie defense, which we haven't even talked about. But yeah, I mean, that's what that's about. You're on mute, Forrest.
I'm building on it piece by piece.
We're going to say technical difficulties, the podcast, apparently is what we'll call this. But
at least none of it will get really that picked up when it comes to the audio version of it.
Right, exactly.
When I upload that in August. No. But yeah, I think that, you know, building on it on this piece by piece a little bit. I think that, so he resigned from his originally resigned from the fireman position that he had, right, with the city, and he was getting a large paycheck, assumably like a union paycheck and stuff, and realized that he doesn't make much money. And I don't think they really touch on this enough in the documentary version of it, but they do in the actual, like, in the biopic, right? Like, it's pretty clear that he's going through extreme financial strain. And I like the scene where they're kind of doing the horse trading, where, you know, it's like, oh, well, what can you support and what can I support, like, to try to have each other's back and, like, try to work together. And he's like, oh, well, you can, you know, introduce supervisor raises. He's like, yeah, well, nobody was going to pass that because it's incredibly unpopular for, you know, politicians to start going, yeah, I think I should make more money. That is not something that gets you reelected. So that financial strain, I think, and the scene where, you know, they're at the party and he comes in, like, you know, Harvey's birthday, and he's drunk and he's being incredibly menacing towards him and his, you know, his random.
He's being creepy. He's just being a creep. Yeah, he's just being a fucking creep, really. And sort of like, wow, what's going to happen here? You know, is this what's going to happen?
Brolin does that kind of menacing whatever, like, really well too.
Right. Yeah, so this was a time period where Josh Brolin was, like, in a lot of films before this is pre-Marvel.
He was in No Country for Old Men.
No Country for Old Men, Brolin. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he was in and I forgot a few other films, but, like, I was like, wow, he's having a bit of a resurgence since his Goonie days.
Well, No Country for Old Men was a year before Milk came out, right? It's 2007. Yeah. I think that's the first movie that I remember seeing.
And then he did W, which
yeah, that's not Oliver Stone's best.
No.
I don't think he was bad as, you know, being W though. I like when he gets in the fist fight with fucking with Bush 41, his Pop, and he's like crashes the car and he runs in. He's like, yeah, Pop, I'm gonna fuck you up, and like. I mean, I think the Vice portrayal of of George W. Bush is a lot better than Josh Brolin's kind of more like tragic figure portrayal because I don't know, he's just a stupid guy that like wanted to impress his dad. Like it's not that. I don't think Bush is like a complicated figure. I don't think there's like depth the way that like Oliver Stone and Josh Brolin tried to like kind of portray. I think it's just dumb frat boy guy that wanted to impress his dad. Really, I think that's what it boils down to in the end. Which Capitol Trap House at one point pointed out when they did their like Hell of Presidents thing that like both Bush and Trump are kind of similar and that they're both like just guys with daddy issues. Like their whole reason for like acquiring power and fame is they're just like dudes who wanted to impress their dads in two very different ways. And of course, Trump's dad is dead now, but like.
Can we discuss the assassination of Harvey Milk?
Yeah, so I have a clip for that. So yeah, we're building on this thing, this puzzle one piece at a time.
Woo! I mean, sad.
This is a puzzle. This puzzle is an assassination. It's not a woohoo moment.
To some San Franciscans, it must appear the city has gone a little insane. Just as everyone is beginning to come to grips with mindless murder and suicide of over 900 members of the San Francisco-based People's Temple, word screams out over the radio, the television, the newspaper.
Oh, whoops. That's not.
Code 3, room 200. I'm in the mayor's office. 341, 1023 for 1 moment. We're trying to ascertain what is happening. Room 237, please.
Ambulance over here. A unit over here. Get another ambulance.
Yeah, where are the victims going? I don't know if they're going anywhere. It's supposed to Harvey Milk and the mayor are supposed to be COA.
As president of the board, as president of the Board of Supervisors, it's my duty to make this announcement. Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed. The suspect is Supervisor Dan White.
Is he in custody? No, he's not at this time. Thank you very much.
Attention all units, suspect named Dan White, white male adult, 32 years, 6 feet, 185 pounds, wearing a 3-piece brown suit, considered armed and dangerous.
What's a perfect name for that guy too? Dan White.
Yeah.
Like white
Also,
as white bread, bro. You know.
I mean, he did it because he was a closeted gay. That's for sure.
That's certainly.
There's no. I mean, seriously, like that deep hatred. It's always you're secretly like that.
Yeah.
If you hate a certain demographic of people so much, but like especially when it comes to like LGBTQ plus community, the bigot's always closeted.
So Twinkie defense, he only got manslaughter. He was in for I think 5 years, and then 2 years after he came back to SF and he committed suicide. So
Well, so Feinstein was able to like pass an ordinance that said, "Please don't move back to to San Francisco. Please move elsewhere." So he moved to the suburbs of San Francisco, and
Yeah, I forget where exactly he ended up, but it was someplace you're like, oh yeah, of course that dude would end up there. It's totally irrelevant. It's just like. I mean, look, there was a whole lot of white flight outside of San Francisco anyway, around that time period. And that's kind of when everything was like pushing towards suburbs again. Some of it for price concerns, but yeah.
He engaged in a little bit of white flight right there. Where he
hey! Yes, indeed.
He took off though from
San Bruno, which is a real nothing. It's in San Mateo County. It's like a real nothing place. That's like maybe 40,000 people. It's like south of South San Francisco. I bought a used computer there once. It's the best thing I can say about it.
Yeah, and he put himself in his car and did the whole carbon monoxide thing.
Yeah.
Within like 2 years of getting
Which
out.
seems like I don't know. It seems like a pretty rough
Slow way to die.
Well,
Yeah,
today,
exactly.
today they put him on stage at CPAC, and he
exactly.
You know, he'd have an NFT, the Dan White NFT. You know? Tucker Carlson would have him on all the time. He you know, he was just a man out of his era, I think, because we are in the era of like the celebration of a Dan White kind of figure. I feel like.
Sure, and everyone talks about that. I don't really want to discuss it right now. I think it's kind of cool how it shows the beginning of Harvey Milk's kind of work and organizing, and how natural it is, and just like starting from the fact that again the hate got to, you know, it didn't work for gay folks to hang on the hate, which is how the Castro kind of became like known as the Castro. But like there were people that were not okay with that. Right, that were flat out like, you know, intolerant, and to see that sort of breed the organization that led to him being such an incredible leader, movement leader, not just for gay rights, but just for like progressive policies, and who honestly could have like done so much more. I mean, he could have been like mayor, he could have been governor, senator, like I mean, he could have and should have been like a Bernie Sanders style movement politician. And I think it's very important too. Like there's a couple of key moments in the movie, and certainly he says it a lot in real life too, about it not being about the person, but you know, the person being about the movement. And I think that is really important.
So this is a speech that he gave at UCLA.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
To kind of capture, you know, how like, you know, dynamic he was as a speaker, I think.
Yeah.
But
that really doesn't get his political skills don't get discussed nearly enough, because he was incredibly sharp.
At the in the Times of Harvey Milk, that documentary, it actually does show through, because there's like this union guy, like, you know, a stereotypical like union guy from fucking California, but like he's like this older guy that's like, you know, I pulled up there and I see like all these queers, and I'm like, what am I doing here? But he's like, but he realized he becomes like Harvey Milk's like labor guy, and he realizes like, no, this guy is not a gay politician. This guy is not a movement politician in the sense of like, you know, this one issue, right? Like he's more than a single issue politician. And he says, you know, you realize there's so many different minority communities, right? Like whether it's like, you know, the senior citizens, or whether it's you know, disabled people, or and they all have interest groups. And he said that what Harvey Milk did is you wanted to stick around because eventually he was going to talk about your issue. And
exactly.
Yeah.
He's actual coalition builder. Everyone talks about they're a coalition builder, but he actually was.
Yeah. So I think that shines through really well in that documentary. But also it's funny to have like the stereotypical union guy being like, oh, what am I going to tell my union? He's a what?
Exactly. Yeah.
Come on out. Senator Supervisor Harvey Milk. My name is Harvey Milk, and I'm here to recruit you. I'm tired of listening to the Anita Bryans twist the language of the Bible to fit their own distorted outlook. But I'm even more tired of the religious leaders of this nation who know it and remain silent. I'm tired of their silence. And I'm tired of the John Briggs talking and lying about false role models. He's lying in his teeth and he knows it. Anita Bryant and John Briggs' unwillingness to talk about heterosexual violence they're unwillingness to look into their own house. For if the John Briggses win, they will not stop. They are mad, and the Hitler types must continue to prove that they were right. They don't stop. You must remember that gay doctors, any gay person who has any kind of license is in danger, and the Holocaust will begin. Gay people all across the state. The Briggs can only be defeated if each and every one of you comes out to everyone you know. You must. And finally, join me in this message. Jimmy Carter, listen to us. You want to lead? You want to be the world's leader in human rights? Well, damn it, lead! There are 15 million lesbians and gay men waiting to hear your voice. We are coming out of the closet. When are you going to come out of yours? How many more years?
Nice.
Jimmy Carter apparently met him in I think it was I want to say 1977 or 1976. Jimmy Carter came to California and met him and didn't want to publicly meet with him. Harvey Milk kind of forced his way into bringing like the press with him to meet the public. And Jimmy Carter's obviously like far more conservative evangelical sister was there and reached out to shake his hand. And Harvey Milk says, "You don't know where that hand has been."
Yeah, and I think that's something that it comes across in the movie is like his incredible sense of humor, which at the time, I mean, even now, it's rare to like Bernie Sanders is actually funny in his very specific kind of way. He's very funny, but like it's very rare for a politician to be funny, even now to this day. And Harvey Milk was hilarious, and he knew how to use it in service of making his points. But he also was a very funny guy, which probably comes from being like oppressed and having to have like some rough chuckles to have to deal with it. Of course,
yeah. I mean, we see a lot with in the film with Harvey's interactions with Dan White.
Yeah, exactly.
And Dan White's like,
yeah, totally stone faced, like humorless. I mean, like shocking, right?
There's a certain kind of California politician too. Like, I mean, Reagan kind of did the same. Reagan had his like stupid one-liners where he'd come tell a humorous joke and everyone would chuckle. But Nixon was not a funny person whatsoever.
No,
he was a crook.
And,
not at all.
But at one point, he had a joke writer teach him how to tell jokes because he was so. I mean, I don't know what the technical psychiatric term for it is, but whatever it is, he had it, and he had to learn how to actually communicate with voters in a way that wasn't like completely unappealing. And that's of course, around the same time as like the famous "sock it to me."
Exactly. Which and like that's one of the reasons why like Nixon as a historical figure is much more interesting, as evidenced by the movie Nixon is fine. Secret Honor is actually really great. If for folks that maybe are not familiar, it's in the Criterion collection. It's a film from like 1984, and R.I.P. Philip Baker Hall. He plays Nixon, and it's just him. It's just him, basically. Like, it's a really interesting movie because, like, we think of these when we think of Nixon now, we all kind of think of like certain characterizations of Nixon, but the fact that it did it in 1984, it's cool. Like, it's it's a good film, and also he, R.I.P. to a legend. That guy was a great actor, but like it's literally just him, and it's a very interesting movie just because of that. Because it's just him, like in a room, like basically like alone with his thoughts and stuff.
Nixon would kind of steal like things from people. Like he obviously stole the victory thing from Eisenhower, right?
Yeah, of course.
But also
that was like his thing. Well, Roger Stone does it all the time now.
There was Roger Stone has a Nixon tattoo. Actually,
it's a tramp stamp. Let's be real here.
That's an image I didn't need. Thank you.
Well, Roger Stone's whole claim to fame was that he was arrested. He was the youngest person arrested during Watergate.
I know more about that guy than I let on. I still want to fucking talk about it.
But the other thing Nixon did is there was a famous quote that LBJ was used to say, "Let's get down to the nut cutting," which was when they were like getting it down to like a bill that they needed to like the rough part of it. And Nixon actually stole that at one point and like used it against fucking LBJ.
Funny. But but there is a certain, and I think Forrest, what you're referring to is there is a certain kind of genial affability that borderlines, the charisma that comes from like being from other things, like being an actor in Reagan's case, and then there's also just the kind of wet blanket, usually dudes that. Just they have a district that it's an easy win for them, and there's a lot of those as well, and that tends to be almost every Republican politician that ever gets elected in California, and honestly, about 80 to 85% of the Democrats is the people only know like the Gavin Newsoms and Jerry Browns of the world, and don't think of these empty suits that just have no charisma of any kind whatsoever. And then of course every once in a while you get like a Katie Porter or Barbara Lee or someone that's actually stands for something and is kind of
man, she runs for president in 2024.
I'm into it.
she's getting up there in years too, but she's my old rep and she's amazing.
She was actually Elizabeth Warren's student when Elizabeth Warren taught at Harvard, which is kind of nuts. But
I think there's so we're talking about Katie Porter now. I think there's a very strong chance that when Dianne Feinstein dies in office, that Newsom potentially might appoint her.
She's honestly, for that style of like technocratic progressive politician, she's like probably the best there is.
Imagine her running for president. She's bringing out the whiteboard at the debates,
and Trump brings out like a. But I don't know, like a squeaky chalkboard. So it's like, hey, listen. I actually think after today, Trump is not going to be the 2024 nominee for the Republicans.
DeSantis, let's go. Oh, great, more fascism.
Well, I think he's definitely going to run though, because he can raise money on it. Like, I think he's going to run. He's going to run.
He's not going to win though.
I think Republicans are going to try to unshackle themselves from the mess that is January 6th, and
especially after what we heard today.
Yeah.
But I think what he's going to do is he's going to run to raise money and then find some way to like not have to do it.
I do like the thought of Trump fucking trying to choke out his driver.
But I do think like I don't know. Yeah, exactly. The idea of like Biden versus Trump again is like almost the most depressing thing I've ever heard. Like it's.
Do you remember when they both threatened to beat the shit out of each other?
Yeah, it was like, oh my god.
Remember when Trump got COVID, and I remember I went to bed and all West Coast knew about it, and then I woke up.
Oh my god. God damn it.
Oh god no. And
then
the
last episode of Red Flag, I said the words Jackson Hinkle and just started cracking up and couldn't stop.
One more thing. Oh, when he got COVID, one of my customers who's like, she's like in her 80s, but she's a hard lefty. Like she's been an activist for all her life. She was like, I was hoping he would die, and I was like, and my mom was like, oh my god, and I'm like, yeah, Del, keep saying that.
I mean, I would have been bummed out.
I want to, because now we're getting into after party territory. I'd like to play this last clip. This is the Dan White trial part, and then we'll go from this to letterbox one-liners and. Yeah, and then we can.
I feel like we haven't. I feel like we haven't actually talked about the movie that much, but yeah.
Well, I have a clip of Sean Penn talking about it too, but
okay. I think it's a good movie, by the way. But whatever, we can find lots of stuff. That's fine.
He's in the hands of the cops. The prosecution argued a simple motive: revenge.
Is that Harvey Firestein
there? The facts of the crime. The state spent 3 days proving that Dan White committed the murders. White's own lawyers had already admitted this in their opening statement. To prove its case, the prosecution played a tape of Dan White's confession, but the tactic backfired. Some of the jurors wept in sympathy for White.
I've been under an awful lot of pressure lately, financial pressure because of my job situation. family pressure, not being able to have the time on my family. The mayor never called me. He told me he was going to call me before he made any decision. He never did that. It was only on my own initiative when I went down today to speak with him. I was troubled. The pressure of my family again, my son's out to a babysitter. My wife's got to work long hours. I just was going to the mayor to see if he was going to reappoint me. Just all the time knowing he's going to go out and lie to the press and tell them, that I wasn't a good supervisor and that people didn't want me. And then that was it. Then I just shot him. And then it struck me about what Harvey had tried to do. And I said, well, I'll go talk to him. I said, at least maybe he'd be honest with me. And he was all smiles and stuff, and I went in. Well, he knew I wasn't going to be able to funny. And he just kind of smirked at me, as if to say, too bad. And then I just got all flushed and hot, and I shot him.
You told the jury that although he had the gun with him, the .38, he had no intention of shooting anyone at City Hall. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that other supervisors carried weapons with permits. That's correct.
Well, I didn't mention with permits, but I did say that other supervisors and perhaps other City Hall personnel do carry firearms presently and have carried them in the past. Yeah.
Do you know if the other people who do carry weapons also carry 10 extra rounds in their pocket?
I think ex-police officers and certainly police officers on or off duty carry extra ammunition, yes.
And that is also why you say he reloaded after shooting their Moscone.
That is what I said, yes.
Clarify that, though, because of his experience as an ex-police officer.
Yes, I think it was more instinctive than anything else.
White was portrayed as an idealist, disgusted with the corruption of politics, a man who felt the city was deteriorating as a decent place for San Franciscans to live. Defense attorney Doug Schmidt told the jury, "Good people, fine people with fine backgrounds simply don't kill people in cold blood. It just doesn't happen." A key witness for the defense was Dan White's wife, Mary Ann.
I knew the types of pressure that Danny was under. I felt the pressure myself. And I think when this occurred, I felt more for Danny than I did for myself or anyone else. I really did. I just felt so much that I wanted to do something for him.
Do you foresee a point in the future where your life can return to some degree of normalcy?
Oh, yes. I firmly believe that there's something for us good that will come out of this.
White's lawyers introduced the testimony of 5 psychiatrists to prove that he acted while in a state of severe depression, induced in part by consuming too much junk food. His attorneys argued that he had killed Moscone and Milk in the heat of the moment, and that under the law, the charges against him should be reduced from murder to manslaughter. The trial concluded in just 11 days.
Yep. I killed George and Harvey with my 6 gun.
I hate
I fought the law and I won.
Yeah, I hate the lawyer's face. That lawyer has like the worst lawyer face. The worst case of lawyer face.
The resting lawyer face.
Yeah.
Oh,
look who it is. But yeah, I mean, kind of depraved.
You have a lot of nerve showing your face around here.
After what you said about us in court.
You're muted.
Yeah, you muted yourself.
Did you see the tweet I sent out while I was having lunch, dinner?
I can't. I'm banned from Twitter.
He's not kidding. He was.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
For 7 days because I said that I wish harm on billionaires.
Oh, well, nothing. You did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Let Forrest go.
Free Forrest.
Yeah, but like I think that it's honestly so depraved. I think that the atmosphere of crime, though, like kind of within this time period, right, like made some of the most reactionary shit in really U.S. history happen. And like, I mean, you know, Biden rode that wave too. Like that's kind of Biden's wave to power, like being the fucking tough on crime guy. Like the preceding decade, and then like, you know, the 80s and 90s, kind of this whole like reactionary crime wave, with Democrats voting for some of the worst policies, not just because of you know, because they actually felt tough on crime, but also out of a fear that Republicans would pass even worse bills, you know, even more draconian bills, if whatever the thing on the table is didn't pass. Like there's a lot of severely fucked up shit that happened within the next couple decades, and this I think is a symptom of that too. That like fear of crime, right? Like that fear that like
absolutely. Yeah. That's, and again, talk about things that they're still doing now, right?
Yeah. Although I think our fuse for it is a little bit shorter now. Looking at something like Eric Adams, like, you know, winning by being a cop. Like I think that I think that people get a lot more tired of that a lot faster now. Like it's not that high.
I don't think he's gonna probably, if he runs for the re-election, he ain't gonna win.
Well, I just don't see how with like I don't see how you can sustain an entire mayoral tenure, right, just by scaring the shit out of people.
This is classic after party stuff, right?
Yeah.
So subscribe to the Patreon if you want to find out all about that crap.
So one more clip before we go to the one-liners. This is
I'm really selling it.
This is our Sean Penn clip for the.
There you go.
Howard Stern.
Film are you most proud of? Is it Milk?
You know, I don't know if I've ever thought that through. Certainly that movie, you know, that's Gus Van Sant. Almost everything he touches for its own sake, in the sense that he gives himself to the style that the story dictates. He's got, you know, that rarest human quality of humility and yet incredible talent. So as much as any movie I've ever been involved in, Milk.
When you played Harvey Milk, you were running tapes of this guy, right? Constantly in your trailer or wherever the hell you were.
Here was a guy who, notwithstanding the gay rights that he was a heroic symbol of and leader in, just this person as a man, watching him, and there's a lot of archival footage of it, you feel such a love and affection. I increasingly, as I was moving towards making that movie, just felt this sorrow that I would never get to meet him. It was somebody who wanted to know, that kind of person to touch your life. And the people that had known him were so affected by him. And so it's kind of like a song that touches you deeply. You know, a lot of actors will play music on a set, you know, to get themselves in a place. I didn't have to do that when it came to on set, because, you know, he had become the song in my life at that time, where I would play music because I had queued up, as I would come over to Visadero in San Francisco, as I'd come down towards the Castro district where we shot a lot of the movie. And just my buddy Chet and I, he's my driver on movies. And he's like this tough, you know, fire plug New Yorker. And he knew that as we're about to summit the hill and see the Castro below on our way to work, he'd hit the CD and we'd be blasting "It's Raining Men."
That get you into it, huh?
And then I was right there. I was going to dance with the fellas, you bet.
We haven't talked about Gus Van Sant at all, or the direction of this movie, which I think is great and consistent with that. I mean, that guy's stuff is quality. Like he's a good director, even if with the movie is only okay. It's the directions usually.
I love the way that they made fun of him though, because obviously like he has the same, you know, basic cast and you know, I mean, like as like Kevin Smith uses a lot, right? Like he uses
he used the same few
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, like so they made fun of Good Will Hunting, but they did Good Will Hunting 2, and they had the scene
hunting season.
He's like, is it action, Gus? And he's counting the money. He's like, Jesus, Ben. I said I'm busy.
Forgot about that. No, but I mean, like,
better than Psycho, where he did the completely pointless film, shot for shot remake.
Yeah.
Which sucked the life out of whatever was there at the original.
Sure, I mean, if you want to bring up the worst thing he's ever done, yeah. But like, I mean,
well, thank goodness that's the worst thing he's ever done, though.
Yeah.
Compared to other people in Hollywood, say like Sean Penn.
That Ukraine documentary.
but I mean, like Drugstore Cowboy, Goodwill Hunting, like My Own Private Idaho, like even honestly, people forget about To Die For. To Die For is pretty great. It's like one of Nicole Kidman's best movies, I think. Like I mean, he's got a thing. Like I would put him in like a category of director where it's usually interesting. It's not always my thing, but like when he nails it, he really nails it.
Yeah,
I'm with you there.
And I mean, what do you guys think about Sean Penn's portrayal of Harvey Milk? I think that he plays it a little bit over the top, but I think that it kind of makes him endearing.
Oh yeah, because it's Sean Penn, but he's a pretty good actor. I mean, I love his performance of Mystic River.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, Harvey Milk is pretty over the top dude. Like I think he did a great job with it. I think there's a complaint that like, hey, there's all these iconic gay characters and it's a bunch of straight dudes playing them, and I get that, and that's I understand, but I mean, he's also like, it is called acting for a reason, folks.
Yeah,
like, and I thought it was a great portrayal. Like I mean, I thought he was pretty much embodied a hard dude to play.
Also, like when it came out, there weren't as many, or like there's still a few closeted A-list actors,
Right.
so they might not have had the they might not have been known a known quantity. If that
Well, and
makes
that's but that's it, and that goes back to like just judging things that even though this is like 14 years ago, not long ago compared to some of the stuff we cover,
Yeah.
but like judging it on 2022 criteria and like knocking points off for things that were.
Look at Philadelphia. Even Tom Hanks was like, there weren't a whole lot of gay actors back in the day. He's like, if they were to ever do a remake, there's no way in hell a straight guy can play my character.
Yeah, they didn't. People said no that they were. I mean, they're confirmed Bachelor. There's confirmed Bachelor, Conan Neutron.
Remember when Kevin Spacey got mugged in a walking his dog at a notoriously like gay hotspot where you just go and pick up guys in the bathroom at the park. But apparently he was just walking his dog.
He's walking his dog.
I was just walking my dog. He fucking answers it in the House of Cards voice.
Yeah.
I was just walking my dog.
But I think this is a very well directed movie, and I think that it's a tough topic. And if you get it wrong, you're going to piss a lot of people off because he's such an important movement politics figure. And especially in the Bay Area, but worldwide, really. But especially in the Bay Area, just if he hadn't nailed it, oof.
My quantifier, I guess, for how good or bad this movie was going to be is that I fucking really hate biopics. Like I really like the fact that I do like this movie and I did like this movie at the time and I still like this movie. Like I would say means it's a good movie because I burn through water with biopics pretty fucking quickly. They do the same exact tropes over and over again, and this movie didn't seem to.
Which is why Walk Hard is so amazing because just takes a flamethrower and sets the entire genre on fire and is hilarious while doing it.
Yeah, so I think this movie stands on its own 2 feet without kind of falling back on a lot of that stuff. I do think that a lot of the reason is because there is so much archive footage, not because the archive footage is just from the time period, but also the documentary that kind of it follows along with the documentary. If you watch them kind of back to back, you're like, oh yeah, this is they've taken a lot of the stuff straight from there. Which there's other stuff like his relationship with I forget the guy's name, but his second relationship, not Scott. That relationship obviously doesn't get touched on much.
I share a birthday with Cleve.
Oh yeah,
October 11th.
Who is the lead in that Into the Wild movie that directed by Sean Penn? I might add that is I quite like.
Yeah, totally forgot that movie exists.
All right, Letterboxd one-liners.
I liked that movie too.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was good. And then what's so you're talking about Diego Luna's character, right? What was it? What was it? Jack Lira is the name of that character.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that.
I just know him as the guy from the Two Mama Tambien, but like whatever, I'm a weirdo.
He also does look like the actual guy. I mean, like the actual boyfriend of Sean Penn.
He's in Elysium. Oh yeah, he looks totally like that dude. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But you want to do Letterboxd one-liners?
I'd love to. So, of course, Letterboxd is a place for film lovers to congregate, talk about the movies they love, the movies that they didn't love, the movies that are maybe weirdly thirsty for, and talk about what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, what they were baffled by, what's on their mind. Maybe that's nothing to do with the movie. All of this, of course, is best expressed in the funny, working on your tight five format, the one-liner. Keep it short, keep it succinct, don't bore us, get to the chorus. These are the Letterboxd one-liners for Milk. Man, fuck you, Dan White. What a shitty name.
I'm kind of impressed that the reviewer was not named Dan White.
The Twinkie defense sounds like something that would totally be something that Dan White gets away with too.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Nice background, by the way. I know you cannot live on hope alone, but without it, life is not worth living.
Good
Great
quote.
Yep.
2008 quote. Good quote.
2008 quote, but it makes it. It makes it. I take a sip of his milk.
What the fuck?
Well, it's definitely not curdled yet. I mean, now it seems to be. If you look at his appearance now, but
if a bullet should enter my brain, let that bullet destroy every closet door.
yeah, that line goes hard.
Yeah.
By the way, that will that they play throughout it, right? Like that they're kind of tying together the narration with. That's a real thing that Harvey Milk
they did
recorded.
Yeah. He dictated it out. Yep.
Yeah.
Good film, but I didn't really like how they had to bring politics into it.
Okay.
Come on, just act. I wanna see the acting. I don't want to hear about politics.
I'm just trying to have a good time. Why do you make it political?
Show more scenes of drunk guys hanging out.
If you're still lactose intolerant after seeing this, just grow up.
Written by a Proud Boy, I guess.
Even though I knew what would happen, because it's literally the past, I was still hoping I would be wrong.
Yo, I remember seeing it in theaters and thinking that. Like, I remember seeing it in theaters and be like, come on, maybe he won't die. And I'm like, no,
like, of course he has to. It's a historical biopic. Yeah.
It's like that John Wayne movie where he where they win the Alamo,
Or it's like the Tarantino movie where they don't end up killing
Sharon
Once Upon a
Tate.
Time in Hollywood, where they don't end up.
They
don't.
They don't kill Sharon Tate. She gets to have a career in her life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which Josh Brolin character is scarier, Thanos or Dan White?
Dan White says, "I am inevitable." Snapping fingers and walking into City Hall.
Oh man! God damn it. Bro, I cried. How did that bastard get off with only manslaughter on the fucking Twinkie defense? But anyway, this movie was so great.
Yeah.
It's true.
They don't really, I mean, at the end of the movie, they kind of tie it up before, going too in depth into that whole part of it.
Yep. I guess Dan White wasn't just lactose intolerant.
Oh, man.
He couldn't cut it in the Proud Boys, could he?
There you go. Those are the Letterboxd one-liners for Milk. Of course, if you're on Letterboxd, follow the show, which is Forrest over there. Please follow. And Conan Neutron, that's me. I'm all over it. J. Andrew World is logging films from the basement, apparently. And then, of course, our lovely friend Kristina down there She's not only finding her pride, she's finding which movie she's going to watch next on Letterboxd. Letterboxd is the place for film. It's time for the plugs. I don't quite know how to introduce it because this is like, you can't have one president at a time, right? You can't have two going. Are we letting Kristina do it? What's happening?
I don't know.
I can do them.
Okay.
Kristina, take it away.
All right. So if you guys are watching us on Twitch, feel free to subscribe. If you have an Amazon Prime account, feel free to subscribe through Amazon Prime. It's free. It helps us out. It's amazing. I love it. If you're on YouTube, feel free to subscribe. Click that notification bell because, YouTube's algorithm is shitty. And also make sure to watch through the whole entire video because that helps us out and kind of boosts us in the algorithm as well. Please, again, subscribe because if we reach 1,000 subscribers, we can get monetized, I believe.
Yeah.
Also, we do have a Patreon, which we do a lot of after parties. So patreon.com/movie night extra.
Andy, she's crushing your version of this right now.
I talk too much. That's my problem. Let's see. What else? Oh, if you think we're ugly, but you think our content is waste,
then you're tripping and fuck you.
Yeah. Feel free to listen to us on any place where you get your podcast from. So, come on. We're mildly attractive people. So you're probably thinking, I just want to listen. I don't want to look.
You don't want to be distracted by all the beauty. That's what.
Or by the pins. Or by the pins.
Yeah.
Look, we don't speak of the pins anymore.
Yeah. If you want, let's see. I'm pretty sure I got through everything. The major plugs for the podcast.
Yeah, just individual ones,
Yeah. Okay. Now, if you want more of Conan, subscribe to Platonic Reversal.
Yes.
And also, are you going on any more tours anytime soon?
Not for a bit. Yeah, August and September. So, but
okay,
yeah,
so we got plenty of time.
Yeah, there's plenty of time for that.
Any guests on the podcast coming up?
300th episode. Big surprise what that's going to be. But 300th episode coming up.
And become a patron too for Conan because
yes,
he produces amazing content.
I do. Thank you.
I need to get on the podcast.
We'll talk.
Release the album. You got to release the album to get on the podcast.
Yes. Got a new album out. Got a new awesome music video out. It's great. I love it. Whenever I'm bored, I listen to Conan because I'm like, gets me motivated to clean. I had to clean my room and it was a mess, but now it's back to being a mess again. So I got to listen to Conan and clean my room.
See? Exactly. So everybody buy it. Thank you.
Conan has 12 rules for life. And,
it's got to spark joy.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Is that all the plugs, Conan?
Sure. That seems fine. Oh, new EP, a newish EP. The vinyl's coming soon. Dangerous Nomenclature. Neutron Friends, Bandcamp.com.
Also, follow Forrest at Always Flocka, even though he's got a 7-day ban right now.
I appealed it. I don't know if they'll.
Did you get Dan White's lawyer?
Look, there's a lot of people that wish death on billionaires. In fact, when he said that, he had just taken his ADHD medication, which and he's also on steroids for poison ivy right now. So. His brain wasn't all there, and that's why I don't think this is fair to ban him for 7 days. Also, a lot of people carry bullets in their pocket. It's not really that big.
We call it
Andy, do you have any plugs like Bad Takes? And
he never
gets Bad Takes is on a bit of a hiatus right now, but we'll be coming back strong this summer. So wait for some announcements. Probably once I actually have furniture. Because literally right now, my only furniture is a metal chair and some mattresses upstairs.
The cat's the pillow.
Yeah. Which she briefly came out of hiding from behind the washer and has then retreated back there because the air conditioning came back on.
We appreciate the minute-by-minute updates.
Yes. And I think the other cat has eaten all the food. There we go. But there's one other thing I do want to plug. If anybody knows anything about propane water heaters, please hit me up in my DMs. I don't think it's a flame because I don't have any hot water right now.
Damn it, Bobby. You need to.
Man, Now I gotta plug myself. I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Kristina.
Yes, you do.
And I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Kristina. Right there, Kristina right there.
Exactly.
There you
Find
go.
your pride. Find your pride.
Yes,
You
I have to
coming
do
up,
a very
you comrade.
intimate dance in the rain with another woman. Like that's how I have to do it. I have to do it like Mac.
Okay. I got it.
Yeah.
And yeah, subscribe to your Patreon and all that jazz.
Yeah. Help me become financially independent, you guys. It's gonna be fun.
Everyone in this show needs money, so please
Yeah.
sort that out, wouldn't you?
I have
Thanks.
$20 to my name currently.
Thanks in advance.
The one thing I wanted to plug is that on July 6th, it is the year anniversary of Movie Night Extravaganza.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah.
We are going to hopefully have a bunch of guests coming on for the after party. The movie, we're going to be on This Is Revolution. The movie is going to be a Clockwork Orange. Rayvon is joining us for that. It's going to be a fun time. We've kind of worked it out over the last week after not really knowing what to do. But yeah,
it just was announced, and I was like, "Oh, cool, I'm into that." Like, I was like,
well, we've talked about doing it before.
Exactly. I am super stoked. I'm not mad about it. I was like, great. That's a great choice.
I think we're gonna have various guests. I mean, I talked to Jason's definitely gonna jump on for a little bit to wish us a good time. Ben might come on for a little bit. I think like Doug Lane. Like I haven't worked it all out yet, but like I just the people I actually physically ran into.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like all the people you ran into over the weekend. But it sounds very exciting.
Now my question is how the hell am I going to work mermaids into freaking Clockwork Orange?
Oh, he wanted me to tell you it's not mermaids. It's not mermaids.
So, and before that, I think right, Friday, July 1st, one of the last Friday shows for a bit is going to be Stalker with Ian Miller of Kowloon Walled City and Rigs of Dad and Varn.
Yeah,
correctly.
And we're gonna be slowing down for the summer because doing Tuesday shows only because everyone wants to live their life during the summer. Nobody.
Yeah, we got because everyone has to do.
I think doing like shows on Wednesday would be fine, probably. So it's like right in the middle of the week.
Yeah, I mean we could change the day up, but nobody wants to work anymore. So
To be honest, I never did, but.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's it for plugs. We're going to be going to the after party in a few minutes, but of course, first, final thoughts dictated into the tape recorder in case of you're an assassination. Kristina, I guess starting with you. Final thoughts.
So I saw this film. I think when it was available on demand and whatnot on DVD and Blu-ray, this is right in 2009. And I thought the film was phenomenal. I understand why Sean Penn got the Oscar. Also, this entire cast is stellar. Even though I'm trying to forget that James Franco is in this film.
Yeah.
I mean, amazing directing, amazing use of actual clips from the time period. I think Josh Brolin did phenomenal as Dan White. I mean, he kind of looks like his twin. It is the film is very dated for its time, but hopefully there will be more movies like this that talk about other LGBTQ plus icons within the political spectrum, and maybe it won't be as dated as Milk is, because there's always room for improvement. So
curdled milk.
Yes, exactly. And those are my final thoughts.
That milk's gone sour. Yeah, Andy. Final thoughts.
But mostly about my water heater. But
I was gonna say, my final thought is you better get some furniture in there too.
Andy, final thought. Damn it, Bobby.
Damn it, Bobby.
Yeah. No. This is definitely. I did not get to rewatch this movie, unfortunately, because of the move. I feel really bad about that. Because I really, Sean Penn, as much as I hate the fact that he beats every partner he's ever had, he is a hell of a good actor, and I do appreciate the fact that he's an artist. I want to separate from his art. But his art's always great. So, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Am I making any sense?
No, it makes sense. But
Okay.
also, also I'd like to separate him from his political activism as well.
Yeah, well, he's at the January 6th, hearings.
I know
doing
that
the people's work.
That story broke as I was getting ready for this episode. They're like, "Oh, Sean Penn was at the January 6th hearings."
Weirdo.
Alyssa Milano's at large with a bunch of stuff too. It's like, what are you up to?
Yeah, but like Sean Penn literally went into Haiti to do the Clintons.
I do not need it. I need to be explicitly clear. I do not need it explained to me. I know exactly what the fuck.
Yeah, no. So I'm saying it's a foreign policy rather than like a.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yes. I get it, and I also don't want to discuss it. But yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but it's one of those movies I did not see in the theater because that was tail end of my kids being small and couldn't really get to the movies like I used to. So I did miss it, kind of. But it's definitely a movie that's worth checking out. Fantastic cast. Honestly, I don't have too many more final thoughts that haven't really been covered.
All right,
there we go.
Yeah, Conan, let's hear those final thoughts.
Yeah, I did see it in movie theater. I saw it at the Castro Theater, like in the Castro district, like where it all took place, which is on film. And that was, as I mentioned many times before, one of the more surreal moments of my life and certainly my movie making experience. And it made it all the more poignant because of it. And I was someone that was skeptical, yet cautiously optimistic about this film being made. Because like, well, if it's got Stan Santa, I bet it'll be interesting. And I think they knocked it out of the park. I mean, biopics, I think, are a hard sell for me as well. It's not my favorite genre. But there's a lot to love about this. I mean, Sean Penn won Best Actor that year. That was the Slumdog Millionaire and Heath Ledger year, by the way. But like he won Best Actor. It was stiff competition for that. But I mean, it's an ensemble piece. Like I mean, Josh Brolin as I almost said Bud White. As Dan White is incredible. I mean, there's a lot of great performances here, and it's an important piece of history that had never really been put on a major motion picture in that way and put in historical context. And even though, as we mentioned, some of the hopey changey stuff like maybe hasn't like aged quite as well, but the underlying aspects of what it means to be a movement politician, to have that in like a major Hollywood blockbuster is, that's important. And that's something to take away from, even if like, you think that maybe the movie is not quite entirely your thing or that it didn't entirely get there. I think it does that message very well. And there's not a lot of movies that do that. And I think Harvey Milk was an incredible human being and, worthy of lionization and worthy of remembrance. And I think this movie does a good job of kind of walking the fine line between all of that. But can't be clear enough. Fuck Dianne Feinstein.
Yeah, you took my final thought was going to be Dianne Feinstein. Come on, it's time to go. It's
enough.
Don't run for re-election. It's time to go. Just retire. Just you know what? I'll never say a bad word about you again.
Just lay in bed, close your eyes, and just let it go.
Just sit on your gigantic bed of money.
Let it go. Just resign, bitch.